Okay, we are going to learn about 9.8, which is factoring polynomials completely. The first thing we are going to talk about is how to factor out a common binomial. So what we're going to do is this is going to be just like we're factoring out a GCF. The only thing that's going to be different is that our GCF is going to be a binomial. So it's already going to be in parentheses and consisting of two terms. Okay, so when we look at number 1, we see the problem 4 times x minus 3 plus 5 times x minus 3, and we see that both parts of the expression have x minus 3. So we're going to take x minus 3 and we're going to factor it out. So we'll write x minus 3, and now that we've taken it out, what's left is 4x plus 5. And so we can write that in parentheses to group it. If you would like, you can distribute on the part that's typed, and you can FOIL on the part that's in blue, and you will get the exact same expression. So let's go ahead and look at number 2. We can see that our common binomial is y minus 5, so that's what's going to get factored out. So we have y minus 5, and what's remaining is 2y squared, and then minus 3, and we will go ahead and group that in parentheses. All right, when we look at number 3, we're going to see that this is going to be a little bit different. Our common binomial is x plus 8. So when we factor out x plus 8, we're left with x, and then we're left with nothing. So we're going to use that 1 to be our placeholder for right here, and so we're left with x plus 1. We're going to leave 4 for class on Monday. So let's go ahead and go to the next thing, and that's going to be factoring by grouping. Okay, to factor by grouping, what we're going to do is we're going to have 4 terms, and we're going to group them into binomials, factor out a common monomial, and then factor out the binomial. Ms. Cash is doing an excellent job being my writer today. Should give her 3 at home. Now, as we're reading this, when we have 4 terms and we split into binomials and factor GCF and then factor a binomial, this might not make a lot of sense until we do a couple. Okay, when we look at number 5, we see that we have 4 terms here. I typically kind of draw a divider line in the middle of the 2 terms. And so now I can look at the x to the third plus 2x squared, and I have a GCF in that part of x squared. So when I factor out x squared, I have x plus 2 remaining. And now I'm going to look at my other part, 8x plus 16, and I see that 8 is going to be my GCF of 8x and 16. So I factor out the 8, and I'm also left with 8 times x plus 2. Now I can see that I have a common binomial of x plus 2. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to factor that out. So I have x plus 2, and then I will just leave x squared plus 8 in parentheses. Now, if we were to go ahead and FOIL that back, we will see that we would get the exact same thing as we did when we started there. And Miss Cash is going to show you how she does her box method here. She lines up her 2 binomials on the top, and she puts her other binomial on the side, and then she uses that chart to multiply, and then we can see that we have the same 4 terms. And that's what she does instead of FOIL. Alrighty. Okay, on your worksheet, you're going to go ahead and need to change number 6 real quick, so we'll give you a minute to do that. You'll see that all I did was I rearranged them, and that's going to make this easier for us to factor by grouping. So let's go ahead and draw our divider line. And we can factor out the GCF of x to the third and 2x squared. So I factor out my x squared, then I'm left with x plus 2. Now when I'm looking at the second part, I want to get the x plus 2 to be in parentheses, so I'm going to have to factor out a negative 5. When I factor out a negative 5, then I'm going to be left with x plus 2 in parentheses again. The idea is we're trying to get the common binomial, so now we can factor out the common binomial and we'll have x plus 2 times x squared minus 5. Be sure that you're including the correct signs. And we can go ahead and move on to our next one here. All right, number 7, again, let's draw our divider line. And we can have x squared will come out. We're left with x minus 9. Now on this one we already have an x minus 9, so we can go ahead and put a 1 in front there, and then we can leave x minus 9 in parentheses. This then we can see that x minus 9 is our common binomial, and we can factor it out to x minus 9 times x squared plus 1. Let's go ahead and we're going to leave, that should be x squared plus 1. Thank you. Where we have x squared. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, we're going to leave 8 for Monday in class again. So again, we've left off number 4 and number 8 because those might be a little complicated and we'll do those as a group. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put everything together. When we say we want to factor completely, that means first we're going to check for a GCF. And then we're going to factor anything that remains. And this means we're going to have to remember to check for our special products. Okay, so we look at number 9. We have 3x cubed minus 21x squared minus 54x. We see that each of them have an x and that 3 can be divided out of each of them. So we're going to factor out our 3x. And we have x squared minus 7x minus what? Oh my goodness. Let's get our heads in the game here. Are you thinking at home? 18, very good. So now that we have x squared minus 7x minus 18 in parentheses still, we can factor that trinomial. And this is an easy one. What factors of 18 add up to be negative 7? Hopefully by now that's an easy one for us. So that inside trinomial will factor to x minus 9 times x plus 2. Now what's written in green alone is not completely factored. We have to include that 3x as part of our factor. So our entire answer is 3x times x minus 9 times x plus 2. And we'll talk Monday about how we can check that through FOIL. All right, let's look at number 10. Number 10 is quite a bit different. We only have 2 terms, and so we see that we can take an 8 and an x out of both. So when we take out 8x, we're left with x squared plus 3. And we'll have that be x to the second power. Now there's nothing else that we can do because x squared plus 3 isn't anything that can still be factored, so this is going to be our answer. Now when we look at number 11, we're thinking, okay, there's no term in front of x squared, so I don't need to slide and divide. There's nothing to the third power. So when we go ahead and we look at this, we're thinking of factors of negative 3 that add up to be negative 4. And we're not able to come up with any. So this one is actually something that is not factorable. This is not something that we're going to see on our test for Chapter 9, but this is something that we want you to know that not everything can be factored. Last couple here. When we look at number 12, this one is like number 10. Our GCF is going to be 3x, and we're left with x squared minus 4 in parentheses. Now, unlike number 10, we're still able to factor x squared minus 4 because that is a difference of squares. So that will factor to x plus 2 times x minus 2. And again, what's in green is not our complete answer. We have to write our completely factored answer as 3x times x plus 2 times x minus 2. When we look at number 13, we see that we have all even numbers, so we know that we can take a 2 out and they all have an x, so we can factor 2x. Then we are left with x squared minus 6x plus 9. Now, you might recognize this as a perfect trinomial, or you might say what factors of 9 add up to be negative 6, and that will be x minus 3 times x minus 3, or we can write it as x minus 3 to the second power. So our complete answer will include the 2x, and so we have 2x times x minus 3 to the second power. Number last, x to the third minus 2x squared minus 8x. The only thing that they all three have in common is the x, so we factor out our GCF and we're left with x squared minus 2x minus 8. Can we still factor, can we find factors of negative 8 that add up to be negative 2? Yes, we can. So this will factor to x minus 4 times x plus 2, and we will include our x in our answer. So our completely factored answer is x times x minus 4 times x plus 2. All right, what we would like you to try is, I would like you to try the rest of this worksheet. You can try number 15 and 16, the two solving equations. That's what we will practice on Monday. And if you would try the guided practice problems from your book. Now, if you didn't bring your book home, I went ahead and put them right here, so you can go ahead and try these 6 problems, and I believe I left you room on the front of that worksheet. Have a good weekend. We'll see you Monday.